Friends in High Places. The fateful 1898 New Year's Day on Mount Rainier, when Edward Curtis rescued those hikers lost in a snowstorm, and the important friends he made then, led him to two of the most meaningful connections he made on the journey toward publishing the North American Indian. In 1904, Clara Curtis submitted one of her husband's studio portraits of a young Seattle girl to a ladies' home journal contest, Prettiest Children in America. From some 18,000 entries, it was one of the winners. The artist, Walter Russell, commissioned to paint the selected children, was so taken by Curtis's photograph that he told President Theodore Roosevelt about him. That spring, the president invited Curtis to his Oyster Bay home on Long Island to photograph his own children. Roosevelt and Curtis had friends in common, three of the men on the Harriman expedition that Curtis had worked with 5 years earlier: Gifford Pinchot, a trusted advisor to the president; John Bird Grinnell, a close friend of Roosevelt's, who had both been in a group Curtis helped on Rainier in 1898; and the eminent naturalist John Burroughs. Roosevelt also loved the American West. He had a working ranch in South Dakota, and was deeply curious about Native American culture, though not always sympathetic to their plight. The two had a lot to talk about. On that trip to Roosevelt's New York home, Curtis carried with him a portfolio of his Indian photographs and shared his plans for the North American Indian publishing project. Moved by the work he saw and the vision he heard, the president later wrote to Curtis, "No man could be doing anything more important. I will support you in any way I can." Over the next few years, Curtis tried desperately to find underwriting for his work. Even with Roosevelt's friendship and support, he was turned down by the Smithsonian Institution. He also failed to place subscriptions in other major anthropological and art institutions, and couldn't drum up significant support even in Seattle, while sales of his work couldn't keep pace with his mounting expenses. Times were dire. Then, in 1906, things changed. With the help of E.H. Harriman, Curtis secured an appointment with the richest man in the world, the New York banker and industrialist John Pierpont Morgan. At the meeting, Curtis presented Morgan with his proposal and a budget. This covered estimated annual expenses for the work on the North American Indian, hotels and travel, equipment, assistants' salaries, food for the crews, horses and mules, rental fees for wagons and teamsters, money for translators and for transcribing field recordings of songs and music, and payment for the Indian subjects of his photographs. Fatefully, and perhaps improvising on his feet, Curtis proposed that he not take any funding for his own salary, nor for the project's substantial production costs, assuming those expenses would be covered by the North American Indian subscriptions. This arrangement came to haunt him. The story goes that Morgan agreed only after seeing and being moved by the Indian photographs Curtis showed him, and he granted Curtis $75,000 or $15,000 a year for the following 5 years of field work, a sum close to $2 million in today's dollars. Though Curtis would be forced to go back to Morgan, hat in hand, several times in the coming years, the project's future was, for the present, secure.